Hey lore lovers, my name's Eric with the Lorebrarians YouTube channel, and today we're going to be discussing the history and nature of the mysterious Ozolith, a massive crystalline structure on the plane of Ikoria that has played a significant role in the development of monsters and mutations, and it is a large part of the story of the plane told in the Sundered Bond ebook. If you haven't already, be sure to check out my video explaining the story of Ikoria in its entirety, which I'll link in the description below. Alright, let's dive in. Across all of Ikoria, you can find luminous crystals of all sizes jutting up from the landscape. From the grassy plains of Savai to the swampy depths of the Zagathian rainforest, crystals can be found in abundance. The crystals of Ikoria are deeply tied to both the monsters and magic of the plane. They are thought to drive evolution and growth, causing the frequent mutations of wildlife around them. Their glow is mysteriously amplified in the presence of monsters, a fact that humans have adapted into a sort of forewarning sign to alert sanctuaries of approaching threats. Many humans can even be seen wearing smaller crystals on their armor and clothing. Larger crystals are seamlessly incorporated into the architecture of cities and act as a source of magic for the mages that draw power from them to defend their sanctuaries. There is no denying that the crystals are integral to the nature of the plane, although no one quite knows how they function. Far to the north, beyond most human encampments and in the heart of the dangerous Ikorian wilds, exists a crystal unlike any other: the Ozolith. The Ozolith isn't a single object, but rather a spiraling nexus of crystalline structures that grow larger as they swirl towards its center, which is one massive crystal. But the Ozolith isn't an ordinary Ikorian crystal, and it has powers far beyond their scope. If we pull up its card, the flavor text reads, "As it twists, so does all life around it," hinting at its abilities to provoke sudden changes in monsters. It's suggested in the Sundered Bond ebook that the Ozolith is responsible for the more frequent and drastic mutations of monsters that has been occurring throughout Ikoria. This is further substantiated by the flavor text of Essence Symbiote, which states that the Ozolith has spawned a new era of wild mutations. But the flavor text also suggests the Ozolith, or at least its powers over mutation, are relatively new to Ikoria, which goes against other sources. The Tales of the Ozolith, a seemingly ancient Ikorian text, appears on a few different cards in the set, and these cards tell stories hundreds of years into Ikoria's past. If we are to believe the tales, then it would go that the Ozolith has been around since the first humans arrived on Ikoria. One such tale, found on the card in Dotha Triumph, speaks of an enormous behemoth that predated even the current apex monsters, suddenly vanishing into the ocean. Could its disappearance have been the Ozolith's doing? Regardless of the answer, there is discrepancy on the origins of the mysterious crystal. Perhaps this discrepancy hints at a far greater power the Ozolith possesses, the ability to twist reality, or at least memory. Or maybe it has been in a dormant state for some time and has just recently been reawakened. The Ozolith controls more than just mutation. It controls the monsters themselves, an unnatural ability granted to it by a foreign and invisible entity. This ability is what sets the Sundered Bond story into motion when the Ozolith drives wild monsters to attack the sanctuary city of Dranith. Luca, the ex-Coppercoat, breaks a monster free from the Ozolith's thrall when he forms a shamanic connection with it. This bond, known as Eluda, exists between many humans and monsters on Ikoria, and it's a connection deep enough to fight against the Ozolith's influence. The Planeswalker Vivian Reed notices the unnatural state of the Ozolith and agrees to journey with Luca to return it to its normal tendencies. Along the way, Vivian discloses that she is not from Ikoria and that she believes one of her kind is responsible for the change in the crystal. While bonded to his monster, Luca hears the voice of the being behind the change in the Ozolith. Starting off as a low droning in the back of his mind, the voice reaches a crescendo as Luca travels closer and closer to the crystal network. The two approach the Ozolith and find it guarded by a host of nightmare monsters. While Vivian distracts them, Luca makes his way to the Nexus and comes into contact with it. Upon placing a hand on its surface, the Ozolith reaches out with its power, granting him a vision, and Luca withdraws into his mind. Within this vision, Luca floats inside the orange crystal and is met by the disembodied voice causing the changes in the monsters. The voice appears friendly and even light in tone as it describes itself as an interested party in the happenings of Ikoria, but refuses to reveal its identity. It states that it's interested in the nature and energy of the crystals of the plane, and admits that it is responsible for the newfound aggression in the monsters, but that it is nothing they wouldn't have done themselves eventually. The voice proceeds to manipulate an already distraught and fragile Luca into wielding the power it has granted the Ozolith for his own cause. Wanting nothing more than to return home, he believes he can prove to General Kudrow that using monsters would benefit Drannith, and takes the bait. Pleased with his decision, the voice grants him the power to control many wild monsters, which he then uses to march an army on Drannith. This, no doubt, is what the mysterious voice wanted all along. In the ensuing Battle of Drannith, Luca uses his powers to coordinate an assault of monsters on the Sanctuary City. He is bested by the leadership of his once-fiancée Jarina Kudrow, with the aid of Vivian and the monsters of Ikoria. They surround him and order his surrender. In one last grasp for victory, he calls on the Ozolith to wrest control of the bonded monsters, but the voice comes to him, stating that it's too much power for the crystal to handle. He refuses to listen, and the massive surge of energy tears the Ozolith to pieces. It explodes in a fiery red inferno. Interestingly, the voice doesn't seem too distraught with the destruction of the Ozolith and the termination of its little experiment. With Luca planeswalking away and the Ozolith no more, normalcy can once again return to Ikoria. So who exactly is responsible for tampering with the Ozolith? We don't have a name, and we don't have much of a description to go off, but there are a few things to glean from the story. For one, Vivian states that it's another of her kind, so this individual is a planeswalker like her. She also refers to it as a he, and says that it's in his nature to meddle, but admits that she hasn't known him for very long. From the voice's interaction with Luca, we get a picture of its overall demeanor and tone. It is a calm and easygoing voice that has little concern for the consequences of its actions outside of its own interests. Taking all these facts into consideration leaves us with a few potential planeswalkers who could fit the bill. First up is Angrath, the Minotaur pirate that has been trapped on Ixalan for years due to the power of the immortal sun. He is reckless and self-absorbed, and if we pull up his planeswalker card, he has the ability to control other creatures similar to the power of the Ozolith. But this type of experimentation and meddling isn't in his character. His main concerns are reuniting with his family and living a life free from his shackles. Another potential candidate is the once servant of Nicol Bolas, Tezzeret. After the defeat of Bolas in War of the Spark, Tezzeret is free to do what he wishes, and claims that Bolas was the only individual powerful enough to thwart his plans. He has a scheming mind, and frequently manipulates the events of a plane to further his own machinations. Perhaps, sensing the power of the Ikoria Crystals, the Master Artificer found a way to tap into and control the Ozolith, hoping that it would pave the way to harnessing the natural energy of Ikoria. Although flat-out mind control isn't really in his character, Tezzeret is a master of extortion and exploitation, and could be behind the changes in the Ozolith. Finally, there is the newly introduced Fey planeswalker, Oko. A shape-shifting anarchist from an unknown plane, Oko is almost Tezzeret's equal in manipulation. The major antagonist of the Wildered quest novel, Oko turned the realm of Eldraine against the Wilds and nearly succeeded in sparking a plane-wide war. This type of plan is mirrored perfectly in the Ozolith's manipulation of Luca into using the wild monsters of Ikoria to battle the sanctuary cities of humanity. Furthermore, Oko is known to use glamours and other magic to control the minds of others, similar to the power the Ozolith has over monsters. And to top it all off, his tone and inflection when speaking are strikingly similar to the voice within the crystal. Both are calm, friendly, but with undertones of self-absorption. Perhaps Oko, wanting only to sow chaos and undermine civilizations, is responsible for meddling with the Ozolith. Personally, I'm not sure if any of these contenders are the individual responsible for the events in Sundered Bond. Most likely, it's a new character who has yet to make an appearance, and this is just laying the foundation for when we are finally introduced to him. But only time will tell. Thanks for watching this breakdown of the Ozolith, but now I want to know your thoughts. Who do you think is behind the tampering of the Ozolith, and how accurate is the history of this mysterious structure? Let me know in the comments, and I've linked the references used in this video in the description below. Leave a thumbs up if you'd like the video, and subscribe to the channel for weekly content. Until next time, go forth and explore the lore.